Hey Warriors, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Disabled to Enabled podcast with me, your host, Jessie Ace. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Beekeepers Naturals, natural health products created by bees. Their products are so good that I've not had a cold the entire winter, and that is unheard of. Did you know that without bees we'd have no coffee? Crazy. Check out mmini.me/bees. That's mmini.me/bees and use code WARRIOR for 10% off today, or click the link in the show notes. By clicking this link, by the way, Beekeepers Naturals will give back to the Disabled to Enabled podcast. My name is Jessie Ace. I'm part of a group of enabled warriors that you've probably never heard of. We're fighting back against our invisible illness and taking the dis out of disability. We don't give sympathy to our symptoms. They enable us to be the warrior that we are. If you ask doctors and nurses, they'd say what we're doing is impossible. But pushing the limits of our conditions is something that we have to break through every single day. See, we push the limits. We are mentally strong, and we can do anything. The question is, how far can we push those limits? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Jessie Ace, and this is the Disabled to Enabled podcast. Today is a warrior from Devon in England and was diagnosed in 2015 with MS. His father sadly died of MS-related issues at just the age of 54, and when our guest was diagnosed, he was on a mission to do whatever he could to keep himself as well as possible. Starting with Dr. Google. Doesn't it all start with Dr. Google? He joined the OMS 7-step recovery program and had no relapses since. He's still working as a computer consultant as well as running the podcast for OMS, which is Overcoming MS, and he wants to get back into the outdoor sports that he once loved. He's a dad to a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and he's here with us today to discuss his story and what he did on the 7-day step program. So excited. This is going to be awesome. Enabled Warriors, please help me in welcoming the fabulously lovely Geoff Allix, everybody. Woo! Hey! How are you doing today,
Hello.
Geoff?
And also, because this is going to go out on both podcast platforms, I'd like to welcome you, Jessie Ace.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing it slightly different today.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. So hi everybody on Overcoming MS. How you doing?
And hello to everybody on the Disabled to Enable podcast as well.
Fabulous. So let's get straight in by discussing like what was your diagnosis story like? What happened that day when everything hit the fan, as it was?
So it was quite a long, drawn-out process because, so as you said, my dad had MS, so I had some awareness of things, and I'd had some weird symptoms going back a long time. 15 years maybe was the first thing, but really minor things like I lost sensation in all my fingers. Ended up seeing a consultant at Charing Cross Hospital in London. He was very specialist guy. He couldn't work out what it was because he was saying that's not normal. You'd normally lose them in 2 or 3. There's different nerves going down there. And a few months later, it cleared up, and they said, "Oh, that's fine then," and off you go.
Wow.
and that's what I just thought, that it was fine, and I thought, okay, yeah, it was just an odd thing. And then I was getting other things, and my GP was aware that my dad had MS, and he kept saying, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's not that. It's something else," and just odd little things that cleared up every time after a while. And they said, "Oh, that's okay then." And then the one that really triggered it was I had an eyesight problem, and I was having double vision. So I was completely seeing double vision from my eyes. The optician said there's nothing wrong with your eyes, because he said I just look in the eyeball, inside the eyeball, nothing wrong there. He said something outside, something to do with your muscles or something to do with your nerves. And that's when I really pushed my doctor, and he said, "Okay, that I'll send you to a specialist to get tested for MS, just so you don't worry about it anymore." And so actually, thankfully for my dad having MS, I think I wouldn't have got the testing when I did, and it was merely to so I didn't worry. And then obviously I did see the consultant, and I got an MRI very quickly. I thought I've never used private healthcare, but I've always had it through work, so I thought I'll use it because there's a long delay. And so the very next week I got an MRI scan, and the consultant said straight away, you need to be back on the NHS because Bupa won't pay for all of the tests you need.
Really? Gosh.
Yep. They'll pay. I mean, they're very, very good at some things. Cancer care, amazing.
Yeah.
But other less common ailments, less good. So yeah, so basically I went back onto the queue being told I almost certainly had MS, but it was unproven, so I didn't get any treatment or support. And then back of the waiting list I tried to avoid. And so I had sort of months of waiting really, and I had, as you said, Dr. Google. And that's how I came about quite a lot of charlatans really, people trying to sell you things, quite expensive vitamins basically. And that I didn't like. My wife came across Overcoming MS actually, and she said, "Oh, there's these people there. Not only are they not asking for any money, they will send you the book for free."
Yeah. And
you think, okay, they're not. There's nothing to lose. So you could sign up for them. It's not everywhere in the world, but UK, Ireland, I think Australia, New Zealand, and America can get an e-book version of it. They send you it for nothing. And you think, well, okay, that's worth doing, and it's very, very heavily researched.
It is, yeah. I actually started.
So the only thing, if people are not
amazing,
yeah, if you're not scientific background, it might be a bit heavy. But I am sort of have that sort of background, and I was quite into the idea of it was all referenced and lots and lots of evidence.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice to see that there is so much evidence around it as well, because there's some other diets, isn't there, like the Walls diet and all this other stuff that
yeah, and I think there is some commonality between the diets though. So I do think that the Overcoming MS, Dr. Jelinek's approach has more research, and it's the only one that they're not asking for any money, and I think that was a real key thing for me. I was like, okay, this guy's not, he's actively not trying to get money out of me, and so yeah, that was really, all the other ones you do have to buy into the program to some extent, and yes, they're probably just trying to cover their bills and things like that, but there is a little bit of worry when you're paying money for essentially, well, not a cure, but an improvement in your condition.
Yeah. Could you, so for enabled warriors listening on the Disabled to Enabled podcast at the moment, could you kind of go through what those pillars are and the kind of overall of the OMS program?
Yeah, so the one everyone thinks of it as a diet, it's often referred to as OMS diet, because that's the most visible change that you make.
Yeah.
Everyone sees that you're eating different food. So essentially the diet for Overcoming MS is, if you think of a vegan whole food diet plus seafood, it's the simplest way of saying it. So so no dairy, and that is a real commonality amongst the different MS diets that you see. So when you look at Wild's Protocol, when you look at the Best Bet diet, they very much push for no dairy, which was a weird one actually. When you sort of, my MS nurse wasn't really very positive about it, and she said, "Oh, well, that's one of the main food groups." And then it was only when someone said, "Well, actually, it's a bit weird, that there's no adult animal on Earth that still has breast milk." Then that's a little bit odd that we still have breast milk, and there's certainly no animal on Earth that has breast milk from another species.
That is true, actually.
Yeah, which is still sort of even more weird. And probably if you were actually getting it direct suckling from a cow, you'd probably be arrested. And
just imagine that. That's really weird.
And people sort of say there's variously, people come out with human breast milk ice creams and things in trendy areas of Hoxton or something. And that equally, everyone goes, that's really, really weird. And you think, well, it kind of is, but it's kind of no more weird than another creature's breast milk ice cream. So then you start to think, well, actually, is it normal? So the diet thing. So so say vegan plus seafood, because any form of seafood, so any fish, shellfish, all absolutely fine. Again, I mean, there is the Overcoming MS book has reasons for these things. There's a lot of similarities between some of the molecules in dairy or red meat, certainly, and myelin, which is the myelin sheath around the nerves. And then it's thought that if you get a leaky gut, so your stomach is leaking things into your bloodstream it shouldn't be, which is very, very common with MS, then your body thinks we need to get rid of this bad stuff that's come across. They attack that. Something very, very similar to that is myelin. So your body goes on this overdrive and attacks that as well. And that's not proven. That's just a sort of thought why there might be that causal link. So there's a lot of evidence that it happens. The why it happens is a whole other thing, but that's just a supposition. There are some other things. Very low saturated fats.
Yeah. And
this goes back to the swank diet, which was in the 1950s and has, the longest living. Well, I say living, he's not alive, but the longest running MS diet, where he put people on very low saturated fat, and they did very well. The people who stuck to his program. And what's also I find extraordinary is that he put the whole families on it. So he didn't just put the person, he put their whole family on it to make it easier to make sure they followed it. And none of the children got MS. And I think there was something like 500 people. It's statistically off the scale that none of the children got MS. There should have been quite a few.
That's insane.
But not one of them got MS. So that makes me think, certainly for my kids, okay, if you follow just the main tenets of what I'm doing, then it really massively reduces your risk. And so, so the diet, so basically I avoid fried food, I avoid meat and dairy, but I have as much fish and shellfish as I want. On another thing, I try to avoid the big fish, because you're also worried about their mercury and stuff like that. So
there is that as well. Yeah,
it's another thing you don't want to get.
Exactly.
So I tend to sort of like, anchovies fine, mackerel pretty small, tuna huge. So try and avoid. Doesn't just mean eat tuna every day, because then you've got other issues about mercury eating. But it's not been too hard. I mean, the hardest thing, as other people said, is cheese. There's vegan cheese. Vegan cheeses aren't cheese. Whatever anyone tells you.
No,
they're cheese-ish. But there's nothing like a Stilton or a cheddar. And really what got me into it was like, okay, I feel better. And now I hate the cheese aisle at the supermarket. If I have to go down that aisle, I don't like it. I don't like the smell of it. It just doesn't.
Wow.
It just really grates. It makes me think, okay, that's not healthy. That's not good for me. So probably the hardest thing for me was giving up cheese. I mean, there's so many dairy fake milks, if you like, sort of oat milk,
like nut milk,
soy milk, almond milk. They're endless now. So that's all fine. And it is just it's just cheese. You can get some vegan cheeses, which will do a sort of cream cheese, or you can make a cheese sauce, but you're not going to get a Stilton. That's not going to happen. So
not going to get hard cheese.
No. But that's just a diet batch. I mean, I'll quickly go through the others. Is vitamin D. There's an absolute causal link between how far you are from the equator and how many people get MS. So,
absolutely, yeah. I've just come back from Shift MS's MS sessions in Bucharest.
Okay.
And we talked a lot about vitamin D with like different neurologists and different nutritionists and things. And I found it absolutely fascinating. And one thing that they did say was if you're having, I think it was over 5,000, is it IU?
IUs, yeah.
IU? I don't know. If you're having over 5,000 IU, then you are at risk of having too much vitamin D and potentially poisoning yourself. So you do need to kind of
yes. So there is an element of that, but
loads of it.
Yeah, because there's a thing called the Coimbra protocol. It's a Brazilian guy who gives people massive amounts of MS of vitamin D and finds a lot of improvements. But the risk you have with high vitamin D is used to extract calcium from what you eat.
Yeah.
And if you have too much of it, you can extract too much calcium, and you can get kidney stones. And actually, someone did die of having a sort of hypercalcium or something. They were having massive amounts of vitamin D, and they were having calcium as well. So with the diet side of it, if you're not having dairy,
Yeah,
that cuts out your big calcium intake. So you get plenty of calcium from vitamin D plus green leaf. Because people say, oh, how do you get calcium? Well, how do cows get calcium? They got it from eating grass, drinking water, and being in the sun, and that was it. So you can make calcium from, I wouldn't encourage you to eat grass, but green leafy vegetables plus vitamin D. So the key thing is you if you follow the diet, that also actually is low calcium anyway. So it's not too bad. Certainly a 5,000 IUs is not a problem. If you're going higher than that, I mean, the OMS protocol recommends you get checked twice a year, and most GPs will do this. You can do it online as well for a small fee. And if you check sort of spring and autumn tend to be the best times, then you see, okay, well, how was after the summer? Obviously, you get more because it's skin exposure. And what's my levels like there, and what's my levels like after the winter, and then it takes a little while of sort of tinkering them out. Really, some people need more than others. But yes, you should, if you're going to a high level of vitamin D, then it's worth getting it checked out and seeing what your levels are like.
Yeah, definitely. If you're going anything around 30,000 or something a day, then possibly get that checked out, because that is quite a lot. There was someone that was on that, and I was like, ooh, that's a lot.
Yes. But it's one of those things that it's not an instant thing. Like some vitamins, you must take them every 6 hours. Like if you're taking antibiotics, like you must take them 3 times a day. It's not like that. It's stored in your body fat. So you could actually take, some people take none all week and then take 50,000 on a Saturday or something.
Oh wow!
So if you're told by your GP to up your levels, they quite often do it with a mega dose. So they'll say, take a whackingly huge amount once, and then it sort of slowly just dissipates. It's not going to disappear after 6 hours, and it's like a tablet. I think, oh, if I didn't have my vitamin D yesterday, I don't worry about it. You just think, okay, I've twice as much today, because it'll all level out. So it's not one of those things you need to take on a specific schedule. It gets stored in your body.
Yeah.
So vitamin D, that's a really big one. There's another one actually. It's not really a pillar because I kind of take it as red, which is the smoking one. Smoking is so heavily connected with MS, and if you've got kids, really, you've got to avoid them when they're really young. And that's what I realised. Although I smoked a bit when I was at university, not a lot, but my dad smoked, and he was in my house until I was about 6 years old. And that is taken to be way worse than you smoking when you're older. So if anyone with MS and they've got kids have a higher rate of getting MS, if your parents did, when they're little, when they're really young infants, the first few years of their life, really try and avoid any smoke, because that's really. And then you think, oh, actually, so maybe I did smoke because my dad was in the house and he was smoking when I was really little. So there's that one. But the other one's exercise. So as I said, my dad was advised not to because they thought it makes things worse. It certainly does. If you exercise really hard and you've got MS, everything gets exacerbated. If you see some of the Paralympic athletes, what you see, I watch Kadina Cox and people, and some of them, they'll finish a race and they can't stand up. And that's because they've just done something really extreme activity, and everything's exacerbated. But this is sort of official NHS or British UK NHS that my neurological physio said, if you sort of think of it as your sort of fitness ability is lower, if you don't do any exercise, then those symptoms will kick in when you do even less activity, and you'll keep going, and the sort of circle will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And he said at the end of that is not being able to do any activity at all, because anything you do will start exacerbating things. He said, but if you push the envelope outwards, yes, it'll be uncomfortable. Yes, you might get some symptoms, but you might actually find the fitter you get, the more you can do. And certainly doing a podcast, I've come across people running marathons.
Yeah, me too.
Climbing mountains, all sorts of crazy stuff. And I can't do, I ran a marathon prior to having MS. There were, again, unknown then why I was getting sort of weird symptoms when I did a really heavy running session, which certainly was MS, but didn't have major symptoms. But there's no way I could do it now. But I'm kind of thinking if I could push it a bit, start to be able to do 5Ks. And the problem I have actually is the way I am. I'll know if I start doing 5Ks, I want to do 10Ks. And if I end up, the reason I ran a marathon is because I ran a half marathon. And then there's two of us went, that's only half a marathon. It's kind of in the name. We have to do a marathon.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's a long way. I don't intend to do a marathon again. But yeah, just pushing the envelope outwards a bit. Yeah. And that certainly has improved prognosis long term doing some exercise. And the other one's meditation. Mm-hmm. So keeping stress reduction, really. So whatever you want to call it, mindfulness, meditation, trying to reduce stress, really. Again, that's bizarrely, my neurological physio told me that I needed to meditate, which I found really weird because he was a physio. He said, don't just think about the stress as well. Because he said, if you get stressed out, things will get worse. And that's definitely true. You notice it straight away.
You do. You absolutely do. And stress, like, I don't know about you, but it completely exasperates my symptoms. Like, if I'm starting to feel anxious, then it's just, I start to get more pain, I start to get more weakness, I start to get more fatigue, and it's just ridiculous. And I actually developed a 5-day course recently. So it's actually a 5-day challenge where you learn different exercises, different mindfulness techniques, different kind of meditation techniques. And for anybody that wants to do that, if you go to bit.ly/5-day challenge, you can go and do that. 5-day stress challenge. You can go and try that out. And the people that have been through it have said, like, I've now got total techniques that I can use to when I'm feeling anxious, when I'm feeling stressed. And it's just so good. It's so good to see. And it's so good to be helping people with that. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think you can do it any time as well. I mean, some of the... I've spoken to some real sort of specialists in it, and they said that it's good to do a half hour a day, brilliant, but do it all the time while you're walking the dog. Just think about your surroundings, don't stress about your work and everything. They said don't do it while you're driving a car, because that's listening to mindfulness.
There is a time and a place.
Because some people get still drift off to sleep, and that's probably not a good idea. But generally, you can be more mindful. You can think about what you're currently doing, what are you smelling, what are you seeing, what are you hearing, not what are you stressing about with work, or what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen with Brexit. Or
do you know what, the majority of the time, the things that we stress about in life, we actually can't control anyway. So it's actually doing us no good to be stressing about something that we can't have any control over.
Yeah. And what's already happened, there's no point in stressing about that.
Oh, exactly.
There's an analogy about a boat. If you're sort of captain of a boat, you leave waves behind you of what's happened. Yeah. You can't go back and change the waves. They're just behind you. So you've just got to look for the present and always think about the present. So don't worry, what's going to happen with Brexit. There's nothing. If you can do something about something, then do it. So if it was an obvious thing, yes. If I don't fix that gutter, then I'm going to get loads of water in the front of my house, fix the gutter.
That's fair enough.
But if I'm worried about Brexit,
there's
not an awful lot I can do about it. No. I can vote one way or another, but it will happen or it won't happen, depending on what you prefer. Exactly. And we'll have to live with the situation. And the final actually is medication, because it's not the Overcoming MS protocols are not anti-medication at all. Yeah. It was set up by a doctor, and they actively encourage to say where appropriate. I mean, I think that's the key thing. I think neurologists it's the biggest thing in their armory is must take drugs. Now, there are people who actually are doing all right, and they think, do you know what? And maybe have often sort of phased away from having drugs, and they do find when you get older they become less useful anyway, and they actually sort of slowly say, actually, I'm very healthy, I'm doing all the good things. Yeah. And they do try stopping it and are fine. But then I take medication, or kind of. I've had a thing called Lemtrada, which is
an infusion treatment. Yeah.
Infusion treatment, yeah, and I've had both rounds of infusion, so I shouldn't need anything else. Yeah. But so I'm certainly not anti-medication, and I've had people on our podcast, a guy called Aaron Boster, who I think did he reach out to you actually? I think I gave him your details. Well, he's very, very interesting, and he's very a US specialist, and he really thinks you should hit it early. approach. Which I think is the opposite of what tends to happen. Is they go, okay, we'll give you the sort of weakest drugs.
Yeah,
we'll see how you do.
See how it goes on, and
and you've had loads of massive relapses. We might have to up you a little bit. It's like, well, why not go with the stuff that would stop you having the massive relapses? And I was actually relatively fortunate. So Lemtrada is like a very high efficacy drug, and I was sort of saying, but I haven't had relapses. And the reason I was put on it is I started on a thing called Tecfidera. That caused me to have a dangerously low white blood cell count. And so my neurologist, and I'd said, could I go on to Lemtrada, because I really would like to sort of hit it as hard as I can. And he said, no, you can't unless you have loads of relapses, and it doesn't work. But then he said, do you want to go on Lemtrada now? I said, I thought I couldn't. He said, well, now you've been on a drug field. And I said, but I haven't had relapses. He said, yeah, it doesn't matter why it failed. It failed because you've had a high white blood cell count. So for whatever reason, failure is a failure. So do you want to go on the really strong stuff? I was like, okay, yeah. So I kind of felt quite fortunate, and I could really hit it hard. But it's down to your health service, really. I mean, the UK is great because it's free, but you don't get the choice. You couldn't go to another company. The US, you're going to pay loads of money, but you have more choice, and other countries sort of in between the two. So it does depend where you are. And there is a big move as well. There's a guy called Gavin Giovannoni, who's the sort of top UK specialist at Barts. And he's really trying to push generic drugs out to places in Africa and Asia and South America where they don't have the funding, that they should be able to get some treatment, because it's so expensive. And I feel very fortunate in the UK that we do have it provided.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, definitely. Like, this is the other thing from going to Bucharest as well, and going to this MS Sessions thing. We heard from people in Eastern Europe who don't have access to any sort of MS medication or anything. They have no treatment plan. They don't see a neurologist, and it's insane. We are incredibly lucky in the UK. We really are.
Yeah, and I think, and developed world in general, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, America, you do. I mean, America, maybe you're going to pay a lot more, but at least there's specialists there. And I think, a lot of the world, they are left adrift a bit. So, that's the core 5 protocols of the Overcoming MS. The other 2 really are look after your family as well, because they do have a massively increased risk. Your kids are if you're someone with MS, your children are very unlikely to get it in the sort of couple of percent range. But if you've got MS, it's quite likely you'll have another relative with it. It doesn't kind of works both ways, because there's a lot of people I've met who've got a parent or close relative with MS. So if you've got MS, doesn't mean your kids will have it. If you've got it, there's some genetic component which they're not sure on, but there's a good chance that someone else you will. And you start to find that's in the sort of like 10-20% range of people with MS have a close relative who has also got it. Just look after your kids. It doesn't mean they have to do absolutely everything. You're not going to put them on medication, certainly. But keeping them fit, healthy, vitamin D, make sure they get sunshine. And that's the classic thing as well. In Australia, they have this big slip, slap, slop campaign because they had a problem with skin cancer. Very much in the 90s, I think they really pushed for it. So they really absolutely encouraged everyone, massively high factor sun cream before you leave the house, all times, and they cut their skin cancer rates dramatically.
Wow.
But what happened is all the other cancer rates went up. And so did MS.
Right.
And so did other things went up. And so so we stopped one thing. So actually their overall cancer rate, I believe as a whole, went up, even though skin cancer went down. So they were curing one specific sort of cancer, but all the others relied on vitamin D. And so now, what I do with my kids, and I take them to tropical places, 15 minutes of sunshine, no sun cream, and then go in, sun cream all over. In 15 minutes, you'll max out the amount of vitamin D your body will produce in a day anyway. It's literally a quarter of an hour in Mediterranean or Caribbean or somewhere tropical. Then you've got all the vitamin D you'll get in a whole day, and then you can completely cover up. And your body will stop producing anyway, because it naturally will just stop. It will never overdose you on, when we were saying don't take too much, your body won't do that to itself. So it will just stop producing it.
Fascinating.
So that's an easy one with the kids. Exercise. My kids' pretty healthy diet. They don't have red meat. They do have chicken. It's healthy, but not quite as rigid as what I'm doing. I'm pretty confident with that it really gives them a very, very low chance of getting MS.
That's brilliant. So when you started on the OMS program, what kind of symptoms were you feeling then, and what kind of symptoms do you feel now? Have you seen a difference?
So I got to a point of really very minor problems. Actually, the problems I have now are largely caused by Lemtrada, which is the drug I'm taking, and they said it is likely to bring back previous symptoms. So if you get new symptoms, that's a relapse. But if you've got existing symptoms that come back, Lemtrada does cause that. So my left leg, I can't run again because I can't lift my left leg very quickly. The double vision didn't come back, nothing like that. It's just really that left leg thing that's come back subsequently from having Lemtrada, very much after the second round. So overcoming MS, I think, really did sort of clear me up quite a lot. I think the Lemtrada, though, it's a long-term thing. The neurologist said you've got to wait really till at least next summer, and then hopefully get improvements. So and the other thing with overcoming MS, you're not taking a tablet that will fix you. It's at least 6 months. 6 months really till you notice any improvement, and then you'll probably get improvements over the next sort of first 5 years. Just slowly. It's like turning around an oil tanker. It was going in the wrong direction. You can't turn it around instantly. It will slowly. So eventually you'll get improvements. There's people who are doing overcoming MS that are in wheelchairs. Having said that, all the people I've met, they kind of stopped progression from doing it, so they didn't get any worse. So sort of saying, "Oh, I wish I'd done it earlier because I had all this, and it hasn't got rid of it, but it hasn't got any worse since I've been doing it." So that's what I find, and I'm optimistic. So it's given me optimism really for the future. So I really think I will be much more active, and I'll be surfing and things.
And I think what I'm struggling with at the moment, because I started running a few months ago, just before summer actually. I started running and everything was kind of okay, and I kind of got used to the temperature eventually. But now that the weather has changed, I'm finding it really hard to run now. And it's really strange how it's just kind of flipped on its head. But because it's cold, I'm finding it really hard to move my body now. So I'm having to find different ways of exercising, like doing yoga or something, that is still creating those new neural pathways. So it's interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think I think it goes one way or another. So I'm the opposite. So when it's really cold, my symptoms are much lower.
See,
so I'm much
amazing.
better going, like, I've been snowboarding a few times since I've had MS, and I won't really wrap up. I won't wear loads of massive thick layers because the cold's great for me, but heat is terrible. If it's hot, then my symptoms are much worse. So I really have to avoid the heat. If I stay cold, I'm much better. So I kind of, there's a guy called Wim Hof, who's the Iceman. He's known as. So he has ice baths. Yes, yeah, there is that. But I've certainly gone through this, like, cold showers every morning. It massively improves. If I have a cold shower every morning, it improves what I'm doing. So I travel a lot. I was traveling with work. Last week I was in Florida. But cold shower every morning, I'm fine. Try and stick to air-conditioned places. And it was a work thing, so largely it was air-conditioned, so it's not too bad. But yeah, I do have to sort of, like, I hope to take a dip in the pool or sea and look for cold. But it does seem to me either people are affected by cold or by heat.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just both, because I get different symptoms depending on the temperature. Like, is that a normal thing? I don't know, but yeah.
Most people I've met have been one or the other. There's someone who follows overcoming MS. Not only did she do the Antarctic Marathon, where you're literally running across sort of ice pack in the Antarctic, but she won. So she's got
won.
MS
That's
and she
amazing.
won the Antarctic Marathon
Wow.
as a female. And yeah, she's following the overcoming MS protocol, but she's someone who loves the cold. So yeah, if you're bad in cold and bad in heat, then I suppose the UK is a good place to be. Sort of that.
Well, yeah, it's got a mix of both, isn't it? Yeah. So everybody listening to this, if you comment down below under the podcast, how do you respond? How does your body respond to heat? Are you better with heat? Are you better with cold? Like what's going on there? How do you feel?
And also, what do you do as well? I mean, if there's tips, that's really good, because you can get cold towels, and the various ones. So some of them you have to have bits of ice in them. Other ones you just make them moist, and there's like electric cooling jackets, and there's obviously warming is somewhat easier, but a lot of people find even if you're wrapped up as much as possible, their hands are completely numb with cold.
Mine are. It's crazy. It's crazy. And in the summer, I got this really great thing in the summer, that because I didn't want like a cooling vest or anything like that, because it looked a little bit too not my style, let's say. So I wanted something.
I don't think it's anyone's style.
A little bit cooler. So I found this company called Wrap Me Cool, and their scarves are brilliant. So they sell these scarves, and you basically dampen them and then wring them out, and this scarf stays cold for like hours. It's insane. So when I'm sat outside and it's really, really hot, and everybody's like, "Let's have a barbecue," and I'm like, "Oh, but I'm going to be weak and I'm going to be like tingly," and I'm fine. So this scarf was my savior, because I could literally just put that on and like, it feels so cool. It's nice. It's really great. So if anybody else struggles with heat, go and have a look at a company called Wrap Me Cool, and if you type in the code EW19, I think the code is, then you will get 10% off as well. So go and test that out. That is awesome.
Yeah, I think from another company, but I've got a similar thing where, and the beauty of it is that so we went at Easter, went to Thailand, where it was unseasonably hot as well, actually, even for them. And the beauty of the towels was that they work for quite a long time. Then eventually it will evaporate away and stop working.
Yeah.
But you just the tub it came in was sealable, so you just kept water in that, and then you just make it wet again, bring it out a bit, put it back on, works again.
That's awesome.
So it will just keep working. If you've got access to water, then you've got access to cooling yourself down. So it's a really handy thing to have.
Fabulous. That's really good. And I think it's just genius to have those things like around you, because they do make such a difference. They really do.
Yeah. So and I think warming is probably more obvious. Stay somewhere warm, wrap up warm. And I think the other thing is, do think about holidays. Where are you going on holiday? It does change where you want to go.
It does. I think it matters as well who you go with, because if you go like going on holiday with friends for the first time, for example, I found quite difficult, because I was kind of like, they don't understand, and they just see me as a normal person, and this is going to be awkward because So anyway, before we go, do you have any advice that you can give to someone who is newly diagnosed, or maybe been diagnosed for a while? What would you say to them?
I think arming yourself with information is a really useful thing. So I would say, obviously I follow Overcoming MS, so I would always promote that. I think it's a very effective protocol. The book is free if you go onto the overcomingms.org website. You can buy it on Amazon as well, so just avoid. They're happy for it to be free. They're not trying to make money. That they put it on Amazon because there's the rest of the world as well. There's sort of 6 countries or something. Yeah,
makes sense.
But yeah, do Dan. It is very long. It is very scientific. But that's really useful, and it gives you huge amounts of information. But also have a look into the other things as well. Do arm yourself with information. Look into Wild's protocol. Look into the best bet diet, and make an informed decision. And because it needs to be something that fits with your lifestyle. But do bear in mind that certainly your GP has no idea. Probably, no. My GP knows way, and he knows that. He says he knows less about MS than I do. By massage, he doesn't actually know really. He knows a lot about normal day-to-day illnesses, but not a lot about those sort of things. My neurologist I only see about every 6 months if I'm lucky,
That is lucky, because I've not seen mine for 3 years now.
Yeah, no. But I'm sort of
That's
pushing to see
crazy.
mine again in December, so that's because I'm going through treatment. But yeah, so they don't see very often. But even then, be armed with information and questions, and one of the best questions, actually, a tip that I'd have is to, when you speak to your neurologist, they have to give you official advice. So they will give you the standard NHS advice. An interesting question to ask your neurologist is, what would you do? Because that allows them to give you a different answer.
Do you know, I've heard that so many times.
What's the official advice? Yeah, it's what would you do? And my neurologist said, well, actually, the diet and lifestyle you're doing, he said it's going to lower your risk. He said probably lower your risk of MS. Unproven, but he said it's a good chance. He said certainly it will lower your risk of heart disease, lower your risk of cancer, diabetes, stroke. All these Western illnesses have a lower incidence for people who have whole food diets. But with the fish as well, because if you're fully vegan, then you're missing out on some things, and you do need to be careful with vitamin B12 and things you'll miss. But if you have whole food, plant-based diet plus seafood, then you're covering everything you need and getting rid of all the saturated fats and all the bad bits, certainly the trans fats, all the really dodgy. And that's one thing. Cooking with oil is something that Overcoming MS says you shouldn't do, because it converts those fats into those sort of more nasty sort of trans fats. And they say if you see a McDonald's burger and put it on a shelf for 6 months, it won't go off. It will still look the same.
Yeah, that's scary.
Mold won't touch it because it's so weird. So yeah, I mean, I'd say to arm yourself with information is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, don't be afraid to kind of advocate for yourself and to say to your neurologist, you know, like, I've heard that exercise is a good thing, because neurologists were given the advice to give out, weren't they, that don't exercise and all this sort of stuff. So I think advocating for yourself and standing up for what you kind of want as well. Don't just settle for, well, this is what my neurologist said, so I need to do this. It's much more of a lifestyle change for you, and make everything work for you.
And I think I have optimism as well, that
definitely,
and be the captain of your own ship. If you really want to get improvements, and certainly less symptoms, even if not improving, not getting any worse, then do and that's the tagline for overcoming MS, is whatever it takes. So to do everything, it's like, well, don't just think, oh, I just need to take the tablets and that's it, I'm not going to do anything. And I think most people, that is the majority of people. So certainly my MST, my MS nurse, my neurologist got me to talk at one of their forums, which is run by the MS Society. And they said, and it is remarkable there are about 100 people, newly diagnosed MS people there. 5 of them were interested, I'd say, in diet and lifestyle, and the rest of them had no interest. They were, what drugs are you going to give me? How do I get benefits? How do I get a blue badge? And literally there were brochures for wheelchairs. And people weren't in wheelchairs, and they were sort of saying, and it was like, okay, they would almost rather go down. It's sort of like, you can either, oh, but I don't want to give up cheese. It's like, well, okay, but there's different paths you could take. And yes, you might end up in a wheelchair, and I know that's a possibility for my future, but I would rather delay that as much as possible. I'd rather that never happened. I'd rather do whatever I can. And if I'm in a wheelchair, I'd rather be in a wheelchair than be completely bedbound. I'd rather I have the best possible outcome that I can get. So that's, you've just done doing everything the best I can.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. It makes total sense. So at the end of the Disabled to Enable podcast, we go through something called a super quick secrets round.
Okay.
MS is kicking in today. So are you ready for some super quick secrets to wrap this up?
Yeah. Are you ready if I do it back to you as well? So have a look through.
Oh gosh, you're gonna do it back to me. That's scary.
Have you ever done it on your own podcast?
No, I can't say I have, to be honest.
Oh, there you go.
Can't say I have, but I am nice because I did send you these yesterday.
You did, yeah.
So you've probably seen them. My brain's not very good at thinking of things on the spot, so we will see how this goes. So, okay, Wayward Warriors, we have talked about some heavy stuff today, and let's have a little bit of fun before we go. This is the part of the show where we find out a little bit more about the personality of our guest with some super quick secrets. Are you ready for this, Geoff?
Yep, go for it.
Go for it. Let's do this. What is the most inspiring book that you have ever read?
So I'm going to discount the Overcoming MS book because that's more. That's really like and selling. Yeah, things. That's a given kind of. So I'd say things like fiction books. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. It's an amazing book. Life of Pi. Jan Martel.
Nice.
Is a really amazing book. But if you're sort of talking about, apart from Overcoming MS, things that like lifestyle and stuff like that, the 4 Pillar Plan by Ranjan Chatterjee, who's a British doctor who does some stuff for the media. That's a fantastic book. And that's just talking about general health, but that's talking about diet and stress relief and exercise. And
I've heard a lot about that.
It's a great book, and it's very simple things. But you'll end up on a very similar thing to Overcoming MS, to be honest, because it's again sort of evidence for things, but it's not talking specifically about MS. It's just talking about health in general.
In general, yeah.
And yeah, it's good.
Cool.
You know, low stress is always good. So if I throw that back at you, then what's the most inspiring book that you've read?
Oh gosh, here we go. Most inspiring book that I've ever read.
It's not the MasterChef Kitchen Bible I can see behind you, please.
I am pretty obsessed with MasterChef, I will say.
Okay.
No. I think one of the most inspiring books that I've ever read, I think, was Beautiful by Katie Piper.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also just finished reading.
So she's the person who had an attack, didn't she? Got acid.
Yeah, so she was basically.
She was a model, and then she got.
Yeah, she got acid thrown in her face. It burnt like the whole top half of her. It was horrendous, and she went into so much detail on exactly like how it affected her and what she looked like, and she put pictures in the book and stuff, and I can't imagine. And she suffered a lot with depression and anxiety at that point because she was scared to go outside. She was scared to kind of for anybody to see her, and it was heartbreaking to read, to be honest. It was just amazing. And she's now gone on to set up the Katie Piper Foundation for other people affected by burns and things, and I love books like that. I absolutely love it because it's someone who has taken adversity and just like rocked it and has done something about it, and it's just phenomenal. I love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, but I've also just finished Mad Girl by Bryony Gordon, and oh my goodness, that deals with her struggles with OCD and anxiety and depression and just everything. She also had an eating disorder at one point as well, and her life is amazing. She really is. And she is the columnist for the Daily Telegraph, which is a newspaper in the UK, if anybody's listening who's not in the UK. So yeah, the kind of things that she writes in such an amazing way. So definitely check that out. Okay, next question to you. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever done?
I've done a lot of weird things, actually. I used to travel a lot. I still travel quite a bit, sort of work and stuff. I feel a lot of guilt about air miles, but I've camped on a volcano, an active volcano.
Oh wow!
Overnight, so that we could see the lava flow properly, because lava flow you can't see very well in the daylight.
Yeah.
So to get rid of the orange stuff, you need nighttime go above the tree line. And we camped out with seismologists.
Oh wow! They made sure it was safe, right? It was like
they're getting reports
when you were sleeping.
No, they're getting reports on their radio from the Seismographic Institute, and they get an idea of which direction it's going in. So they want to have you sort of 45 degrees round the volcano, so you can see it, but it's not coming straight towards you.
Oh gosh!
And so that was the
terrifying.
aim, and it worked. and it was it's in Indonesia called Mount Merapi, and it used to erupt every hour. And yeah, eventually they were having reports all through the night when we were sleeping, because you could hear the radio go off and get a load of chattering. Wow. And they said, don't worry, all you do, just stick with us. It's very fast flowing lava here. If there's a problem, we go sideways, we don't go down, because you will never outrun it. So you just move across and it will go down the valley bits and you'll be okay.
Wow.
Yeah, we were okay.
Crazy.
So that was pretty crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I used to love adventure sports, so I've fallen off a cliff and ended up not walking for 6 months from compound fracturing all the bones in my right leg.
Oh gosh.
That was my
Wow.
sixth form. Was in I've been chased by actually this is going to come later, so I won't, there's another story, but that'll come later because it's the scariest thing that's ever happened.
Looking forward to that one. Looking forward to that. Oh my goodness. Okay, what is your most favourite place that you have ever visited?
If it's a country, I think Peru.
Okay.
And I have travelled a lot. I've been sort of around through Asia, spent a year travelling around sort of Southeast Asia, North and South America, and most places. Peru's just got a bit of everything, because if you go there, there's a bit of coast. We didn't spend much time on the coast, to be honest. But they've got Amazon rainforest, really quite pristine Amazon rainforest. They've got mountains, they've got Andes, so you can go to the Inca Trail, and they've got all the Inca stuff, the ancient Machu Picchu and stuff like that. So they've got all the mountainous stuff, and you could go, genuinely mountaineering there. The Inca stuff, the rainforest stuff. There's cities like Lima, sort of an ancient city. There is all the Inca stuff. So there's a bit of everything really, and that's why it was quite fascinating. We're just going from place to place to place, and they would be so dramatically different when you go from the Amazon to the Andes, and they're all in one place. So I think of the countries I've been to, I think that's probably the best one. And what about yourself?
Amazing. For me, I think it has to be France, actually. The south of France, particularly, because we went to stay in this venue one time. So before this business, I had a wedding business. So we went over there to teach this wedding venue about like how to attract more British brides and things, which was amazing. And this place was just incredible, and it was on the top of a hill, and it was completely silent. I've never been anywhere that has been completely silent. It was insane, and there were so many like vineyards and stuff around, and we went for some really good food, and that just makes my holiday, to be honest. It's just I think my other favorite place though, and it's the complete opposite of France, is probably Nashville in Tennessee, America. Mm-hmm. I am obsessed with country music, so I love going over there, and I can't wait to go over there next year. It's going to be awesome. So they're my two, I think.
Okay.
And I actually got out of telling you the weirdest thing that I've ever done.
Oh yes.
I'm going to fill you in now, okay? Because this is a little bit weird. But I used to dance when I was younger, so I used to do ballet, and I can't remember what they used to call it, freestyle or whatever. And I actually did a show once dressed as a squirrel, and I was about 14, and it was the most embarrassing thing I think I ever did at the time. But that's.
Could you be recognised though? Were you fully squirreled up, or you?
Yeah, well, I learned that there was loads of people in the audience from school, so I was like, oh my god, so embarrassing. But you can laugh about it now, obviously. But there we go. So what is the scariest thing you think you've ever done?
So that's going back to the weirdest thing I did mention, because I think I've done used to do a lot of rock climbing. Some rock climbing without ropes. That's sometimes quite scary, but you're kind of focusing on what you're doing, so I don't think you're getting really scared as such. So I think the scariest time ever was I got chased by an orangutan jungle.
Oh no!
So we were trekking through the jungle. We were hoping to see orangutans. We saw loads and loads of amazing animals, loads of gibbons and monkeys and stuff. And then this one, and the guide knew about it, because they try and rehabilitate them, which is really good. But some of the orangutans have had a bad life, and this particular one had a very bad existence from humans when it was captive, and they think it was very, very badly treated. And so basically sort of had a hatred for humans, and they're like, well, you're in the jungle, it's their environment, they didn't want to kill this thing. So we were being guided to go up and down really steep rock faces, and it was still following us.
Oh god.
And they were keeping us away from the high trees, because the high trees they can swing from branch to branch, so trying to make sure it had to stay on the ground with us. But it was still following us, and they said, okay, it won't cross water. So we went across it was a fairly low river. It was probably 2 foot deep, and we sort of waded across, and the guide was so confident that he got our lunch at the other side. And the orangutan came down to the river, still following us. And he said, look, you can just watch it now. It won't cross the river. You can have your lunch, watch the orangutan. And then it started to wade across the river.
I was waiting for that. It's just so
strange. And then it was like, and it got within a few meters of me at one point, I think. And they are very, very, very strong and very dangerous. Got very incredibly strong muscles, very big teeth. So eventually the guide took all the food because it was smelling the food, and he went a different way. He said, like, I'll meet you back. And he lured it away. And then as soon as he lost us slow Westerners, he lost the orangutan because he was much quicker.
I love that. So your guide that you were with just kind of went, right, okay, I'll go this way. You lot go that way. Hopefully see you later.
There was we had a trainee guide with us, actually. So we did have someone else. And he was actually, he'd grown up in a tribe in the jungle, so he really sort of knew his way around. Wow. We couldn't communicate very well with him, but yeah, we just followed him, and the other guy he'd lost the orangutan in about 10 minutes. Once he'd got rid of the Westerners who were slow and useless, then he quickly lost the orangutan. But yeah, that was pretty scary. When it got that close, it was pretty close.
Oh wow.
And I knew that it had attacked people and they'd ended up in hospital before, so yeah, that was pretty scary.
Wow. That's a good story.
Oh, was that scary or weird? Yeah, that's scary and weird, that one. Yeah, so
scary
I didn't mention it weird.
Definitely scary.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is insane.
And how about you? What's the scariest thing?
I mean, compared to that, I don't think I have one that is as scary as that. I think the scariest, certainly animal-related scary thing, was probably when we were in France, actually, and we went horse riding. And so there was 3 of us. There was me, my husband, and the person that lived in this venue. And it was just kind of how do I say? So like we kind of all just got on a horse and then just went through a forest. So this is only the second time that I'd ever been horse riding. It's the first time that my husband's ever been horse riding. So we had no idea what we were doing. We were just following this person, like, okay, this is fine. We were going through this forest, but then we got to a river. And my horse decided to just run and jump straight in the river from this really big height. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? I've never felt so out of control in all my life, I swear. And actually on that same holiday is when they invited me to try a snail for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never eaten a snail, and I'd actually just stopped being vegetarian at the time, and I'd literally just started to try getting into meat and things. So I was a bit iffy about chicken. And I was given a snail, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can eat that. Oh my gosh. But I did eat that, and it was crazy. So yeah, that's probably the scariest thing. That's not a patch on an orangutan chasing me through a forest. I mean, come on. So Geoff, where can other warriors find out more about you and what you do?
So my name's quite unusual. So I don't know if you see it on this, so GeoffAllix. And so if you put my name into anything, it's me, basically. There aren't any other ones. So I'm on all social media. So yeah, Instagram, Twitter. If you put Geoff Allix, then you find me on Twitter, on Instagram, any of those sort of things. But in terms of what we're doing, a podcast, overcomingms.org. If you go onto the homepage there, scroll down quite a bit, you find a bit about the podcast. There's an introduction to me. There's an introductory episode, and we have about an episode a month, roughly. I think we're something like 13 episodes in, something like that.
Nice.
In fact, one came out yesterday, which was talking about food for the holiday season. So
awesome.
How you can sort of do OMS compliant food with the run up to whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or Thanksgiving. Or there's a lot of big meals happen this time of year wherever you are.
Yeah, there is.
And they're often not ideal for certainly the way that Overcoming MS suggests you eat. So it's trying to adapt for those sort of things. But yeah, overcomingms.org, you'll find those stuff. But yeah, an equally unusual name. So find me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
Cool. And you've had loads of really cool guests on your podcast as well, and I noticed. So I noticed that you've had Connor Curley.
Yes.
Curley. And I actually met him in Bucharest, which was really funny. So I was like, I know him.
And there's, certainly there'll be some of the same guests, I think, because they're people with lots of useful information, and I've certainly seen some of the ones you've had or got coming up. And I mentioned Aaron Boster. I think he's going to be a future guest of yours. He's really useful guy. And those people, they're on social media anyway. There's absolutely loads of resources. I think for people, have a look around. There's so much stuff. There's lots of YouTube channels. Brandon Bieber's another guy with a YouTube channel. It's a US neurologist. There is loads of information. So really equip yourself with as much information as you can, because there is loads of stuff out there. But be skeptical as well. And this was the thing. So Aaron Boster, this US neurologist, his thinking about how you should add extra things, as in you've got the neurologist to give you the drugs. So you could just take the drug, do nothing else. But if you're wanting to do more than that, his rules are, does it cost you loads of money? If it costs you loads of money, potentially it's a con, or potentially you're just spending loads of money you haven't got. So he said, avoid things that cost loads of money, or you're unaffordable. That's one of his things. What are the potential benefits? So potentially, I saw something like overcoming MS, potentially it could actually lessen my symptoms and give me a better long-term prognosis. What are the potential side effects? So that's something, certainly with medication. I certainly wasn't really aware of the level of side effects that I might get from Lemtrada. It certainly has had much more side effects than I would have hoped. And I'm thinking maybe in 2 or 3 years, if I've come through all this and I'm absolutely great, then I won't regret it. If in 2 or 3 years I haven't improved from where I am now, then I would regret it, because I was better before the drugs than I'm after. But look at that potential side effects. So what are the potential upsides and what are the potential downsides for anything you do? And the potential downsides for overcoming MS for me are that I'll miss cheese.
No, I think that's a small price to pay.
It is. So but it's something. Some people are, they absolutely say, no, I could not manage without milk in my tea and cheese on my bread. It's not going to happen. Have a look. What are the ups and downsides? So does it cost you loads of money? What are the potential benefits? What are the potential downsides? If you put everything through that filter, then you can sort of start thinking, should I be trying this? And then try things and see how they do. It could be that you're low in vitamin B12. It could be you're low in iron, or it could be vitamin C, and I've been through these things. I think another guy said to me, avoid chasing rainbows. So essentially saying you're not going to find the pot of gold. If you keep chasing the rainbow, you'll never get there. So don't think that there is one thing that will cure you. And maybe one day there will be, but at the moment there isn't. But if you could just find like incremental improvements and things that will make you a little bit better, and try vitamin B12. You can get all these things pretty cheaply anyway. And did that benefit me, or get your blood tested? Am I low in something? And all those things make a difference. So there is absolutely loads of useful resources out there.
So just to recap on that bit as well, so you can go and find Geoff Allix, everybody listening, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
So the key thing is overcomingms.org.
Overcomingms.org,
or if you look up GeoffAllix, look me up on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm on those as well, and I sort of publish things I see about. They're mostly MS based stuff that I'm posting on there.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Geoff, and remember, warriors, stay enabled. Enabled warriors listening, if you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, please like it, please comment on it, share it with someone else that you think it could benefit, that it could help, because this is why we're doing it. We're doing it to encourage more people with chronic illness to be enabled, who just needs to not feel alone. We don't want people to feel alone. We need them to feel part of a community. Join the tribe on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Enabled Warriors or Disabled to Enabled. If you want to fight back against your invisible illness and help take the dis out of disability, then join the tribe on Facebook, facebook.com/enabled warriors. If you love this podcast, click that subscribe button and never miss another episode. And remember, warriors, stay enabled.